Hello and welcome to Lesson 6. Today, the noble gases. So our success criteria: to state the names and symbols of the noble gases, to explain and predict the patterns of the noble gases, and to explain why noble gases are inert. So, first of all, we need to state the group number of the noble gases. That's group 0. In the past, it's been called group 8, but now we go with the name group 0. What are the names and symbols of each of the noble gases? Well, we start with helium, He, neon, Ne, argon, Ar, krypton, Kr, xenon, Xc, and radon, Rn. Now, we need to think about the electron configuration of helium. Previously, I've told you that the group number tells you the number of electrons in the outside shell. The group containing the noble gases has been called over time either group 8 or group 0. And that's because, depending on how you look at it, it either has 8 electrons on its full outer shell or 0. Well, that's true for all but one of them. So one of the reasons we prefer the group name 0 is because 0 is true for all of them. Helium doesn't have 8 electrons in its outer shell. It only has 2, so it can't possibly have. Neon, which is the next noble gas, does have 8 electrons. But if you imagine there is another outer shell around each of these with no electrons in it, that's why we call it group 0. How do the electron configurations of helium and neon differ from the elements found in group 1 and group 2? So if you compare helium to lithium, which is the next element along, lithium has 1 electron in its outside shell. It's looking to lose it. If you compare neon to fluorine, which is the element just before it in group 7, that's got 7 electrons in its outside shell, and so it's trying to gain 1 so that it's more like neon. Both of those elements have complete outer shells, and that's true for all of the noble gases. Helium, neon, argon, krypton, xenon, and radon all have a full outer shell. So, as we did with the halogens, we have a task sheet for you. This one's called The Noble Gases, and I want you to do some research, please, on each of the noble gases. This again will take you to a look at their physical properties and their chemical properties, or in this case, the lack thereof, and that will help you to understand the uses that the noble gases are put to. So, what do we mean by inert? Well, inert means that they don't easily react. It's not true to say that they don't react, but you have to do some quite high-level chemistry before you start reacting them. As I mentioned, fluorine is very, very reactive, and under the right conditions, it will start to steal electrons from other elements, including the inert ones. So it is possible to make salts of fluorine with some of the noble gases, but it's very difficult to do and way beyond the scope of IGCSE. So as far as we're concerned, they have a full outer shell, they have no reason to lose or gain, and so they just sit there. They don't burn, they don't react with anything really. They don't have to gain electrons, they don't have to lose electrons, they're very, very stable. You might remember me mentioning before that when very reactive elements react, they produce very, very stable compounds. So sodium, we saw in the previous lesson, reacts violently with water. Chlorine is toxic and will cut through all sorts of things. But you mix the two together, you make sodium chloride, which can sit under a mountain in northern Pakistan for hundreds of thousands, if not millions of years, and will never react with anything. It'll just sit there. And that's because in sodium chloride, the sodium and the chlorine now have full outer shells. Helium, neon, and argon, krypton, and xenon, and radon already have that structure, so there is no need for them to react. So, just a nice little activity here for you to do. I'm going to give you a minute or two to look at it, or you might just want to pause the video at this point so that you can see if you can spot the mistakes in the passage. So those are the mistakes. Pause the video again and see if you can rewrite the paragraph with the correct answers. And there are your answers. So check that against what you have written to see that you've got the right information in your books. And it's becoming quite familiar now. There are some exam style questions at bronze, silver, and gold level for you to have a go at.